I got to give Donald Trump some credit. He's very, very effective at radicalizing white male rage. I'm going to talk to you about why he does that so well. Stay with me. Hello, everybody. This is Attorney Augustus Corbett. I'm one half of the Defiant Lawyers, and each and every week, we bring you at least one legal analysis of some story trending regarding politics, policies, personalities, or pop culture to empower you and equip you with the information you need to defy an unjust legal system and to nullify systemic racism. If that interests you, and I surely hope it does, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell. Okay, so let's get into this. Yes, I got to give Trump some credit. Got to give him some credit. He is extremely effective at radicalizing white male rage against Black progress. I'm going to show you why he's so effective at doing this. And I'm going to show you why we must do something about it, because they are certainly taking from us precious rights, and they have not finished. They are on the march. And I've been warning you, I've been telling you, I've been sharing videos with you, trying to get you to understand why we must take this threat from Trump and MAGA and the GOP and these angry white men, these angry, fearful white men. We must take this seriously. I've been talking to you about it. You know I have. And some of you, for example, I did a video on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, this past birthday. And I talked about how this whole colorblindness and reverse discrimination, how they're using those two things in concert with the 14th Amendment to roll back precious laws. I did another video where I talked about how they're trying to gut the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And some of you said things like, well, let them have it, let them do it. It doesn't matter. That's probably going to be good for us. And you know what I said to myself? I said, they don't understand. They just don't understand. They're speaking out of a lack of knowledge. Despite me taking my time to explain these things to them, they still don't get it. So what do I have to do? I have to keep saying it. I have to keep saying it, have to keep repeating myself until the bell goes off. Because I am not going to sit back and do nothing while Trump and, again, MAGA and the GOP just roll back precious civil rights that affect our lives as African-American people. I'm not going to sit back and let that happen. I want to begin with the recommendation of a good book. Actually, I recommended this book in my last video, but I'm going to use Dr. Kara Anderson's book again, one of her books again, here to talk about this white rage and how Trump uses this white rage. Yes, Dr. Carol Anderson, PhD, a professor at Emory University. Dr. Anderson has written several books that I recommend you get all of them and read all of them. She is a very prolific historian, and she tells history in a way and from a perspective that we as African Americans can use it. I think it was Wilmer Leon, Dr. Wilmer Leon, say that you study history, not just to study history, but to understand the present. And then you can map out the future. So if you don't know history, you don't understand why you're where you are now. And if you don't understand where you are now, then how can you possibly plan for the future? So having an accurate understanding of African-American history and American history, which are really two and the same thing, then you cannot understand where we are right now. I did a video a couple of weeks ago about the Southern strategy. And most people don't know what the Southern strategy is, most Black people in particular. That's why I did that video, so that you can see which of these political parties is most hostile toward African Americans today. So I focus on history because we need to understand where we are today. So Dr. Anderson says here, white rage is not about visible violence, but rather it works its way through the courts, the legislatures, and a range of government bureaucracies. It wreaks havoc subtly, almost imperceptibly, too imperceptibly certainly, for a nation consistently drawn to the spectacular, to what it can see. It's not the Klan. White rage doesn't have to wear sheets, burn crosses, or take to the streets. Work in the halls of power, it can achieve its ends far more effectively, far more destructively. In my Washington Post op-ed, therefore, I set out to make white rage visible, to blow graphite onto that hidden fingerprint and trace its historic movements over the past 100 years. So let's stop and understand what Dr. Anderson is telling us. She's saying that white rage is different from this blatant, angry, public, white anger that we see, for example, with groups like the Nazis. No, white rage is much more subtle. It's in the halls of Congress. It's in corporate boardrooms. It's at school board meetings. It's in the shadow, if you will, being financed by dark money to implement anti-Black policies that hurt worse than a Klan member burning a cross on your yard. All right? So she's letting us know that although we can't see the white rage, it certainly has a huge impact on the Black community. She says the trigger for white rage is Black advancement, Black progress. So when Barack Obama is elected to the White House and then reelected, that is going to bring about white rage, white backlash, and you're going to begin to see anger and fear amongst white men in particular, and they're going to begin to implement policies and start doing everything they can to try to prevent more Black progress. We saw that with the Voting Rights Act and how they gutted it in 2013 in the Shelby County versus Holder case. We are seeing that now with the rollback of affirmative action, with the rollback of DEI programs. We're seeing all of that right now, as Dr. Anderson says, because the thing that scares and feeds white male rage more than anything is Black advancement or Black progress. And lo and behold, here we are now with a Black female vice president and a Black Secretary of Defense. All of that progress really, really scares and causes great angst and white rage, especially among white men. And I'm going to explain why. And Trump knows how to tap into that better than anyone that I have seen in my lifetime. Better than any president that I've seen in my lifetime. I thought Ronald Reagan was good. Trump takes it to a whole new level. All right, so let's go back to Dr. Anderson. Again, she says the trigger for white rage is Black advancement. It is not the mere presence of Black people that is the problem. Rather, it is Blackness with ambition, with drive, with purpose, with aspirations, and with demands for full and equal citizenship. And that's what we do as African Americans. Some of us, we keep pushing, we keep prodding, we keep protesting, we keep marching, we keep going into the court system because some of us understand that we don't have full equality yet. And that's what we want. We want full equality, not half, not 2/3, not 1/4, but full equality. And that's what triggers white rage. It is Blackness that refuses to accept subjugation, to give up. A formidable array of policy assaults and legal contortions has consistently pushed back resilience, Black resolve. That is so very, very, very true. Now, Black conservatives, aren't triggering any white rage because they are in support of white supremacy. They are okay with the turning back, the rolling back of affirmative action. In fact, one black man, Clarence Thomas, helped to turn back affirmative action. That same black man helped to roll back the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So black conservatives see things completely different. Not only are they not triggering white rage, they are getting handsomely rewarded for standing shoulder to shoulder with white males who are trying to turn back civil rights for African Americans. They're getting all sort of perks and privileges and positions and so forth. All right, now, Dr. Anderson goes on to say, and all the while, white rage manages to maintain not only the upper hand, but also apparently the moral high ground. Now, I want you to listen carefully at this. It's Giuliani chastising black people to fix the problems in their own neighborhoods instead of always scapegoating the police. It's the endless narratives about a culture of black poverty that devalues education, hard work, family, and ambition. It's a mantra told so often that some African Americans themselves have come to believe it, again, like the black conservatives. Few even think anymore to question the stories, the studies of black fathers abandoning their children, of rampant drug use in black neighborhoods, of African American children hating education because school is acting white. All of which have been disproved but remain foundational in American lore. So all of that has been disproved. All of that black men are horrible fathers, that it's black culture that's causing all these issues. All of that has been disproved because the core of the issues facing African Americans is not black culture, it's white culture. It is the evils inside of white culture. As a matter of fact, I'm planning a video entitled, What's More Evil, White Culture or Black Culture? Because black culture, you listen to white and black conservatives, everything is all about how horrible black culture is. And racism is doing nothing. Systemic racism, slavery, Jim Crow has done nothing to bring about the issues we see in the black community. It's all about black culture. That is a lie. I'm going to bring that out in an upcoming video. All right, so how does he tap into, how does he radicalize white male rage so effectively? Now, in the event that there are some of you out there who are saying, what are you talking about? That is not happening. Black folk just need to work harder. Black people need to rebuild the black family. Black people need to stay out of the criminal justice system. Well, as Dr. Anderson just said, those things, while we certainly do need to stay out of the criminal justice system, we certainly need to build strong black families. We certainly need to be hardworking, which most of us are. Those things are not the root of the problems that you see in the African American community. We cannot buy into these white conservative narratives that absolves systemic racism, that essentially says not only is there no systemic racism, but blacks are the ones now who are racist. That's a white conservative narrative that black conservatives have picked up, and they are out here telling us this stuff, causing many blacks to support Trump, listening to that foolishness. All right, let's keep working it. I now want to read you a letter that a white law firm wrote to the Howard University Medical School. This letter shows you how white male rage is working, as Dr. Anderson said, in a covert, clandestine way. All right, let's go to this letter. It's dated July 6, 2023, and the letter was issued shortly after the affirmative action case that basically gutted affirmative action. So I'm not going to read the whole letter, but you see, again, it is written to Howard University College of Medicine, and it's from this white conservative law group here, the Liberty Justice Center. And by the way, we too have a law center that fights for justice, the Lazarus Law and Justice Project. Our website is lljp.org. We want to build the Lazarus Law and Justice Project into something that can fight what we see happening across our country. Okay? All right. I'm going to go ahead and just jump to the bottom of this letter because that's where the juice is. I mean, the first part, all they did was just said, hey, the affirmative action case has been handed down and the U.S. Supreme Court essentially has gutted affirmative action. Therefore, and it's this last paragraph that I want us to read, in accordance with the Supreme Court decision in Students for Fair Admissions, Inc., your medical school must immediately cease any and all policies, practices, programs, or procedures that include a racial component. Look at this. This includes any diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Consequently, to the extent your medical school fails to immediately comply with the Supreme Court's recent decision, Liberty Justice Center will actively engage in strategic litigation to vindicate the fundamental constitutional rights of those individuals whose rights have been violated. So they issued this threat to the storied Howard University Medical School. I mean, we got to take a step back and understand what this is all about. Howard University Medical Center is located in D.C., and most of its students are African Americans. The medical school produces physicians that serve, oftentimes, predominantly low-income African American communities, putting doctors in those communities who are not focused on making money so much as they are providing good medical care to try to deal with the disparities that are in the healthcare system. And here, despite that mission and that good work, they're sending a letter to the Howard University Medical School threatening them to stop any sort of program that they deem, that whites deem, as violative of the affirmative action case. That is white male rage. You don't see any angry terms here. You don't see the N-word. You don't see any of that. But the strategic litigation that they threaten is aimed to really impact Howard University's mission of providing health care to low-income neighborhoods. Again, it is white male rage. So what they did was they got the court, which consists of 6 conservative justices, 1 black, to gut affirmative action. And now look at what has happened. Look at the slippery slope now. So they don't stop with the universities. They don't stop with undergraduate admissions at the universities. Now they're going at HBCU medical schools. Next, it'll be HBCU engineering schools, HBCU nursing schools, HBCU law schools. And they won't stop there. They've already sued this company, Fearless Funds, I think the name of it is, African-American women who were providing seed money to African-American female-owned businesses that needed money, that typically cannot get money from the Small Business Administration, can't get money from capital venturalists and those other, methods of raising money for small businesses. No. So what these sisters did with this Fearless Funds is they began to raise their own money. But this same crowd has now gone after them. And it's not going to stop there. Your job is at stake. Because in their mind, you took the position of a white male. In their minds, you are a diversity hire. In their minds, you are an equity and inclusion hire. In other words, you're not qualified to be on your job. You took that job from a more qualified white guy. That is white male rage. Trump leads that movement. And why any black person would support Trump as he leads a movement to dismantle the rights that you and I have. They're coming for all of that because they have rage. They're angry. I'm going to get into that so that you'll see why they're doing the things they're doing to undermine our progress, our advancement. All right, now, why does Trump resonate with white male rage so effectively? Why do they listen to him so closely? Why are they so connected to him? Why are they so in support of him? Well, there are a few reasons. One, Trump is a con man. He's using them because he doesn't have the issue that the everyday, ordinary white man has. He doesn't have their issues. Trump was born a millionaire. Trump's father gave him $1 million to start life with. Trump don't know anything about the issues most working white men know anything about. He doesn't know anything about trying to pay a light bill. He doesn't know anything about trying to put food on the table. He doesn't know anything about trying to keep your job. He doesn't know anything about that. The only thing he shared with those white men is the same skin color and the same ideology. Yet, they just follow him and other rich white men right off the cliff. I tell you what the sleeping giant in this country is. The sleeping giant is when working people of all colors, ethnicities in this country say no to being used by rich white people. In other words, when poor whites, poor blacks, working whites, working blacks, working Latinos, and so on say we're not going to allow them to divide us anymore, pit us against each other anymore. No, we're not going to do that. But so many working white people, they feel like, well, at least I'm better than those people. At least I got a leg up on them. And if I don't fight them, then they're going to get what little bit I got. You see, Trump is of that rich class that has been using white and black people and pitting them against each other for years. That's where he comes from. All right, so he's a con man. Second, they're all white supremacists. What do I mean by that? I'm not saying they're the kinds who will go out here and put on robes and burn, again, crosses in your yards. No, I'm not saying that. That's not what I mean when I say white supremacy. But they believe that white men should control and rule this country. That's a white supremacist. Because white supremacy thinks that whites are superior and therefore they should be in control. That's a white supremacist. I don't care how nice they are. I don't care if you go out and eat lunch together. If in their minds and hearts they think that white men should rule America, then that person is a white supremacist. And so they're all white supremacists. They fear the nation's racial demographic changes. It is predicted, and it's been predicted a long time, that America will become a minority-majority country. In other words, minorities will be the majority in this country. And that scares white men in particular, because for the last 400 years, they have been the majority and they have ran this. And now they see evidences of that coming to an end, or at least changing. And that triggers that white rage. Their fears were confirmed by Obama, right? So we got Trump because we got Obama. That's the only reason Trump was elected in the first place, because Obama was elected and then reelected. Trump is their guy to try to put this black progress and black advancement back in the bottle, right? So Obama and most white males voted for Obama's opposition both times. John McCain the first time, Mitt Romney the second time. Most white men voted against Obama because Obama was what? Their worst nightmare. Oh my God, we're losing the country. Oh my God, this black man with a Middle Eastern name, Barack Hussein Obama. And Trump, he began to float the lie that he's not even a citizen. Oh my God, we're losing the country. We're losing America. Is there anybody who can help us? And Trump says, I'm glad to. I'm happy to, because I'm concerned about losing the country too. I too am a white man. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to spend my money to prove that he shouldn't even be in office. I'm going to spend my money and give anybody what I think, didn't he pledge $5 million to prove that Obama was not a citizen? And they couldn't do it. But when he stepped out in opposition to Obama like that, he, at that moment, became their star. So they said, here we got a blatant white supremacist who has a whole lot of money, who has no morals, and he will do whatever is needed to protect white male hegemony, white male dominance. And he tapped into that and made the announcement that I could murder somebody on Fifth Avenue and they won't do a thing, because he knew these folks need me, and I have tapped into their rage, and I share their rage. Are you with me? Now, the thing that blows my mind is the fact that you got black men who are on board with this. That's what blows my mind. And some black females as well. So that their fears were confirmed by the election and re-election of Barack Obama. Trump radicalized their fears. I mean, we heard it. So when he came down the escalator in his New York building there and said, they're sending us their worst, they're rapists, they're murderers, etc., he was tapping into their fears. When he stood and gave that speech after the 2020 election and said that if you don't be strong, you're going to lose your country, all of that was tapping into the fears of white men and tapping into their rage. He said many, 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 many other things, right? I'll talk about in just a moment how he specifically radicalized their fears. White male rage also came about because white men, by and large, embraced the lie of reverse discrimination. In other words, if the country, with the addition of the 14th Amendment, does anything to try to give black folks just a little bit of leg up so that they can begin to start getting on parity, so that they can begin to start experiencing full equality, white men consider that to be reverse discrimination. It's like they've had their knee on our necks, like Derek Chauvin, and to take that knee up a little bit, to them, is reverse discrimination. Just to take that knee up some, so you can get some air. In their minds, that's reverse discrimination. And it's oppression. Because if you've been used to having total control, absolute power, and you now got to share 5% of it, that's oppression. And that triggers white rage. So they, as a result of this reverse discrimination, they resent the civil rights movement. Have you noticed they are attacking Martin Luther King? They are going after the civil rights movement because they resent all of that. If you listen to North Carolina gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson, he says that civil rights is a bunch of crap. He says that too many freedoms were lost. Who is he talking about? Who lost freedoms? Black Americans gained freedoms. So who is he talking about when he says too many freedoms were lost as a result of the Civil Rights Act of '64 and the Voting Rights Act? He's speaking on behalf of white men, right? And that's why he has been rising and rising and rising and rising and rising, almost to become the governor of the state of North Carolina, because he's speaking for white men. He's not speaking for black men. He's speaking for white men. So is Tim Scott. So is Clarence Thomas. So is Candace Owens. So are some of these YouTubers. They say little subtle things, right? Have you noticed? Some of them will not just come right out and say, I'm a Trump supporter. They say subtle things. They just throw it in there. They just throw it in there a little bit. But the impact is, especially on people who are not knowledgeable, who doesn't know history, the impact is you need to support Trump or you don't need to support Biden. Not supporting Biden is supporting Trump. Don't let nobody fool you here, because we got two people. Okay, Kennedy, R.F. Kennedy Jr., I think his name is. He may get into the race. And of course, there's Cornel West. And let me address Dr. West here for a second. I love Dr. Cornel West. I think I need to do an entire video on Dr. Cornel. I love Dr. Cornel West. He's a good brother. He's a brilliant brother. He's a genius. And I agree with a lot of his positions. He has a good heart. He loves black people. I've learned a lot from Dr. West. I've read Dr. West's books. But Dr. West does not have a chance to win the presidency. That's just the way it is. I wish he did. I wish he did. But right now, supporting Dr. West would be essentially supporting Donald Trump. A man who is leading the effort, Trump, is leading the effort to dismantle everything precious for African Americans. Now, he comes around and he smiles and he got some black friends. He got black rapper friends and some other black friends and so on, okay? And he will insult us with stuff like, I've done more for black Americans than anybody since Lincoln. That is so disrespectful. First, it's untrue. It's patronizing. It sounds like he's talking to about 5-year-old children. I've done so much for you all. I've done more for you all than your mamas and your daddies. I've done more for you all than that King man and more for you all than Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass. I'm y'all's savior. I believe he knows how offensive that is. I don't believe he's that stupid. But he doesn't care. Just like he didn't care when he said, what do you have to lose supporting me? Your schools are no good. Your neighborhoods are no good. You all are no good. So what do you have to lose? So that's the way you ask for our vote? Come on. Come on. All right, merit versus DEI. This really gets me because white men over 400 years of this country are not in the positions they're in, having been nearly all the presidents, most of the senators, most of the House members, most of the CEOs, university presidents, corporation CEOs, and on, union bosses and everything. They haven't gotten those positions because of merit. They have gotten those positions because they created a system that highly favored white men. How can you say that you got what you got by merit when you forced other people to do your work for 250 years? What? What? How is that merit? And then how do you claim merit when you created a Jim Crow system for 100 years? That's not merit. What white men did was they took our labor and took our money that we worked for, they took that from us. And that happened until the 60s. And it's still happening. So how do they claim merit when most of the money they have gotten it through the enslavement, the subjugation, and oppression of Black people? That's not merit. I mean, give me a break. Stop peeing on my leg and saying it's raining. We're not fools. Some of us are uninformed, and we're out here trying to inform our brothers, but we're not fools. You haven't gotten what you've gotten because of merit. It's because you built a system, a nation that rewards you merely because you're a white male. So let's keep it real. They fear the loss of power, right? We talked about that. The loss of power feels to them like oppression. I mean, that's why they are in the streets, storming the Capitol building, etc., because to have to share a little power with African American people is oppression to them. Like I said, if you're used to absolute power, 90, 100%, and you now must share 5%, that's going to feel like a seismic shift. That's going to feel like oppression. You're still 95% in control. But yeah, I don't want to give up that 5%. That to them feels like oppression. They don't know what oppression is. All right, so question then becomes, what methods does Trump uses to radicalize white male rage? I got a few things. One, as we said earlier, he's a con man. But also, he's an unapologetic white supremacist. He doesn't apologize for it. He says what comes to his mind. He expresses his white supremacy blatantly, and they love that. They love that because he's saying what they are afraid to say. He's saying and behaving the way they want to, but are afraid to because they may lose their jobs. But they cheer him on and they support him. And the very thing that you and I, as African Americans, may find offensive about him is the very thing they love. His unapologetic white supremacy. They love it. So when we're sitting thinking, well, now, him saying that will definitely mean that they're going to stop supporting him. No. They enjoy that. They laugh. They love seeing him say that stuff because that's how they feel. That's the way they feel. Almost like when Malcolm X used to say things that many Black people felt and thought, but would never say. that feeling that folks had for Malcolm and for Dr. King, right? Those men who were courageous enough to say the things that we felt and thought. We loved them the more. Are you with me? And it's the reason why he was called the courage of black men when he got assassinated. I'm talking about Malcolm. And it's the reason why we love Dr. King today, because he became a martyr. He was murdered because he said the things that we felt, believed in our souls. That's the way they see Trump. He says the things, the racist, white supremacist stuff that they feel and want to say, but are afraid to. Second, he's unafraid to use angry, racist rhetoric and gestures, especially toward blacks. Right? So he says things like blacks are supporting him because of his mugshot, knowing that's offensive. He says that blacks are supporting him because blacks identify with him in that he's being unjustly prosecuted. That man knows nothing about being unjustly treated by the criminal justice system. I work in the criminal justice system as an attorney, and trust you me, rich white men are not unjustly treated in the criminal justice system. Just one thing, for example, in every one of his cases, he has an army of lawyers. The black men I represent in the criminal justice system, most of them have to take court-appointed lawyers and then have to work double jobs to pay private lawyers to represent them. They have nothing in common with Donald Trump. Nothing. Nothing. I don't understand why any black man would feel like, well, he's getting persecuted. Dude, what are you talking about? I could say more. He lies incessantly until they believe it. The man has no honesty whatsoever. He'll lie, just flat out lie. Just lie. Just lie. Because he knows he says it enough, eventually it's going to get down to his base. And they're going to repeat it. Just because Trump said it. That's another very effective method of his. He's brazen, like John Wayne or Dirty Harry, right? The Clint Eastwood character. He's brazen like them. I mean, they love that. It's their thinking that men like Dirty Harry and John Wayne, the Mulberry Man, were the kind of men who conquered this country, were the kind of men who took this land from the natives and then brought blacks over here and subjugated them to slavery. So when he behaves that way, that's exactly that white male spirit that they celebrate. And they embrace it because in their minds, they're saying, that's the man we need to take back our country. We're not going to take it back with these nice white guys. They're white supremacists too, but they're not mean enough. They're not ugly enough. They're not brazen enough. But Trump is. I actually heard a white pastor say that. Robert Jeffries, who pastors the First Baptist Church here in Dallas, one of the biggest churches here in Dallas, in the country. I heard him say out of his own mouth, someone asked him, well, it seems that you Christians, you white Christians have always talked about electing somebody, who got good morals, who's a committed Christian and so forth. He said, no. We don't want that kind anymore. We want, these are his words, we want a mean son of a gun. We want a mean, unscrupulous son of a gun who will get in there and do anything and whatever to win, to take back this country, to keep us from losing this country. That came out of the mouth of a preacher, a white preacher, Robert Jeffries. Said, no, we don't want no good Christian man. See, I'm old enough to remember when that's exactly what they said they wanted. There was a movement called the Moral Majority that was started by Ronald Reagan and Jerry Falwell. And it was all about, we want a moral man, a Christian man. Now, this man is nothing close to a Christian. And I'm not judging his heart. I'm not judging him like I'm Jesus. But we all see for ourselves. We all see for ourselves. Okay? He tells them to reject shame and guilt for white supremacy. He tells them not to apologize for being white supremacists. That's how what he's trying to say to them is, that's how we took this country. That's how we built it. Being strong white supremacists. Stop being ashamed. Stop feeling guilty for being strong white supremacists. They love him for that. They love him for that. Yay! Yay! The crowds roar when he says stuff like that. The crowds roar with those red MAGA hats and Confederate flags and so on. They roar because in their minds, this is the guy. This is the one we've been waiting for. He's the one. No shame, no guilt. And that's why, before Trump hit the scene, white racists like that, they were racist, but they kind of kept it to themselves. They knew the wrong word could end their careers. I remember Trent Lott, Senator Trent Lott, who was majority leader back in the 80s, I think it was, who praised Strom Thurmond, a segregationist, a senator from South Carolina. Just that praise of Strom Thurmond cost Trent Lott his leadership position. Effectively ended his career. But that was then. This is now. What has happened now? And you're thinking Donald Trump. But no, what has happened now is Barack Obama. Keep in mind, there is no Trump without Obama. It was Obama who got their attention. So now that Obama was elected and reelected, then they said, we got to come out of our bags and just go head on and just be who we are. White supremacists. And that's what Trump said. Don't feel guilty. Don't be ashamed. Be white supremacists. Otherwise, you're going to lose this country. He expresses his grievances, and he's full of them, right? He is, we've been told over the years that blacks are always crying victim this and victim that and victim this and victim that. There is no one who plays the victim card more than Donald Trump. The election was stolen from him. The Department of Justice has been weaponized against him. And what he's so clever and effective at is he will take his stuff and wrap it up in the American flag and say that when they hold me accountable, they're bringing down the country. They are attacking the country. So he so effectively makes his grievances the country's grievances or theirs. So working white men who have nothing in common with Trump other than skin color will start parroting his grievances. Some white men feel like we're losing our jobs, things are bad, like black folks did it. Like we're the reason jobs went to Mexico or jobs went to China. We're not in any position to send anybody's jobs anywhere. We're trying to just find jobs and keep jobs. It is rich white men who sent jobs south of the border or to China, not black people, yet working white men want to blame black folks. And they pick up the grievances of Trump. Make that make sense. He camouflages his immorality by presenting himself as a strong, indomitable white man. That's so important. Like, a white man who doesn't break, doesn't give up, doesn't bend, doesn't apologize, doesn't ask for forgiveness. Strong. All of that endears him to white male rage, because that is, in their mind, a strong leader. To see that again, indomitable spirit. Now, the man is immoral, but he camouflages it, right? He does stuff and say, essentially, I'm fighting for you, and I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't say I'm sorry. I did what I did in a strategic move to get where I'm trying to go. So if somebody was hurt or killed or whatever, then, oh well. And I will end with this. There is no comparison between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. There is no comparison, no equivalency between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Like there was no comparison between Trump and Obama. None. This man is off the charts. Off the charts. With his rhetoric, with his antics, with his white supremacy, with his immorality, with his lying. Off the charts. And, he loves these strong men. He loves them. And so much so that white males are following right behind him as he embraces Putin. I mean, Donald Trump is so off the charts with his immorality and so on. Even his former vice president will not endorse him for president. That is saying that, look, forget everything I just said. You ain't got to listen to me. Forget what I said. His vice president who served with him, covered him, protected him, lied for him, and almost died for him, will not endorse him. Nor will former chiefs of staffs, nor will folks throughout his administration, the Secretary of the Department of Defense. I mean, just down the line, people who agree with him, who are white supremacists just like him. So outdone by this man. They will not endorse him. Yet, you have black YouTubers who are telling black folks to endorse him. Or don't endorse Joe Biden so that he can be elected. A man that his own vice president will not endorse. That speaks volumes. So, I wanted to show you how Trump radicalizes white male rage against black progress. These folks think that every inch of black progress is an inch of white male oppression. I'll say it again. They believe that every inch, centimeter, millimeter of black advancement, black progress, is space they have lost as white men. That's how determined they are for there not to be black progress and black advancement. And when there is, that triggers that white male rage. And Trump feeds on it, he capitalizes on it, he leverages it. And he has profited from it. All right. I am Attorney Augustus Corbett. Again, I wanted to show you how Trump radicalizes white male rage against Black progress. If they will go after Howard University Medical School, nothing that we hold dear as African Americans, our jobs and so forth, are definitely under threat and at risk. They're trying to roll back everything they can roll back out of fear and rage. And again, Trump has radicalized that. I'm not saying it wasn't there the whole time. He radicalized it. He brought it up and out. All right? So, listen, if this content is something you think that needs to be spread throughout the country, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell. Help us grow the channel, and thank you for the growth that we have seen here recently. We really, 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 really appreciate it more than you will ever know. We appreciate your kind comments, and I'm okay with you disagreeing with me, but as I say all the time, no disrespect. If you use swear words or you name call and all of that, we will block you from the channel. Point blank. Okay? But I'm out. Peace.